all of us experience stress in different ways, in different walks of life, in our different roles. But one common theory of stress, which is also my favorite, is the interactionist model of stress, because it makes the whole idea of understanding stress very easy for me. And that's the model I'm going to use even today. So basically, in understanding stress under this interactionist model, they just say that there are three key components that we need to focus on. Okay. So the first component they call the demand or the situation. So there is always a demand made on us, which causes some kind of a stress in us or anxiety in us. So the demand or the situation can be anything. It can be anything from the environment around us or from in us. It can be a physical thing, like for example, today's example of my Wi-Fi conking out the last minute, or it could be a psychological thing, somebody having severe anxiety because they have to do a presentation. It could be financial issues, it could be relationship issues, it can be anything. But for today's purpose, I'm going to choose what we are all dealing with for the last 1.5 years, and that is the COVID situation, right? So in this example, the demand or the situation which we need to take into consideration is the COVID situation, which is new for us. Even though it's 1.5 years since COVID has first come into our conscious mind, we still are not very, we don't know everything about it. There's still so much of fear, there's still so much of uncertainty and anxiety around that. The second key component that we need to take into consideration while trying to understand stress before we even think about coping with it is our appraisal of the situation. Please remember, it is our appraisal. Therefore, it is subjective, right? The moment I give an interpretation to any situation, it becomes my interpretation of it. So our subjective appraisal of any situation is the second component we take into consideration under this model of understanding stress. So going back to our example of the COVID situation, so what is our subjective appraisal here? For example, very honestly, right from the time COVID started, way back, we came to know about it in February or March in India, right? In March, the first lockdown started. I have sort of treated as something new, but it has not caused me anxiety. Yes, it has caused pain. The second wave has caused pain because now people closer to me have been afflicted. Some people have passed away. So it has caused pain, but there was no anxiety or fear regarding the situation. But what about you guys? How did you feel? How do you still feel about this COVID situation? What is your appraisal of the situation? Anyone would like to answer? You can unmute yourself and respond.
Ma'am, there's still a lot of, dilemma that, how will we adjust? I'm talking personal perspective. I don't know how I'll adjust to when things will start offline.
Right.
I feel it's been, nearly a year and a half.
Right.
It was difficult earlier, then we got adapted to this, and now again going back to that, and the fear that what if, I'm a teacher, what if I get infected by some students? So that's a dilemma.
Absolutely. So here we have a dilemma, anxiety, and some bit of fear from Meghna. There might be some others. I know of some. Yes, Ruma?
Yeah, ma'am, like we often say that these are the various preventive measures to be taken.
Right.
But it was unfortunate that for my case, my son got affected in spite of not even coming out of his room.
Yes.
So like how far does this preventive measures, and I'm very much particular about taking up because I move out with all sort of precautions we have taken. But in spite of that, how did he get it? Because that's very resources. How is it being caused? That is only not becoming clear after he got it.
Absolutely.
It's a surprise package for every one of us.
Yes, absolutely. There are so many cases where people don't come out at all, but somehow the infection seems to have reached them. Okay. So the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety. I know of many people who are suspicious because they say that this is all a governments working together and there's a lot of politics behind the entire COVID-19. And there's so much of news about China trying to, infect the whole world. So there are so many different versions, but it's the same COVID virus that we are talking about. So our subjective appraisal of any situation also determines to what extent that particular situation causes anxiety to us. Now we'll go on to the third important component under this model, and that is our perceived resources for meeting the demand, right? Stress is what? The very basic definition for stress is that when we do not have the resources to meet a demand made on us, we experience stress.
Sorry to disturb.
Yes.
Are you sharing anything or we
No,
are
I
not
don't
saying?
intend to share.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to confirm. That's
Thank you, doctor. Maybe you thought I forgot to share and I'm continuing, right?
I thought like that. Sorry.
Because, I realize when I'm sharing, I can't see my participants' faces. So I prefer to see their faces and engage with them than show a PPT. Okay. So, yeah. So
the last time also you sent afterwards that content. But yeah, thank you.
If you need this time also, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the third key component under this model for understanding stress is about the perceived resources to meet a demand. Now again, see, it's perceived resources. That means what are the resources I have for handling this demand on me? Now COVID situation has made so many demands of us. So do we have the resources for handling it? For most of us, there has been either a pay cut or a job loss, or we have really had to take care of our finances much more stringently. So now some of us may be very still comfortable because maybe there's lots of savings, or maybe you belong to the government sector where there's been no salary cut. But others who have worked in private sectors have seen at least 50% cut. Many people in some segments have lost their jobs. Okay, so this is how do we look at the resources that we have for meeting a certain demand. Again, we might be having all the resources we need, but maybe we're not able to recognize it. One, that's why it's called perceived resources for meeting a particular demand. Or sometimes we may not be having all the resources, but we are overconfident. Oh, I can manage it. I don't have to worry about this. Okay. So therefore, the three key components under this particular model is the demand or the situation on us. The second one is the subjective appraisal of the situation. And the third is our perceived resources for meeting that particular demand. So at this point, I want all of you, see in the same example that I said in the COVID case, what are the resources that we had for managing for 1.5 years in this situation of uncertainty? One would be your financials or other physical comforts, whether you have, food, household items, all the other requirements. Two would be our emotions. How well have we managed our emotions? Some people, have really gone into a very nervous state that they're not able to manage their day-to-day affairs also. You'll be surprised to know that this COVID situation has had, as a psychologist, I've seen many children coming because they are dealing with anxiety. They don't know, first year children who are looking forward to campus life, suddenly they have to sit at home and study, and it's so difficult. Even for us, it is difficult. So imagine for them, school children, they are not able to go out and play and be okay. Even at home now, it's not the same free environment because mama is working in one room, papa is working in another room, so they can't make noise in the house also. So all these are different things that we have to deal with. Some people have managed to be strong throughout because they have an inner psychological strength. So what is it? Some of us have a good support system, family, friends. Some of us have a very spiritual outlook, so we accept things as it comes. So these are all the resources that we have used. I want now all of you to just note down in your own handbooks. Okay. What are the two areas where you are experiencing stress right now? Just quickly jot down what are the two areas that you are experiencing, where you're experiencing stress right now, and keep it aside. We'll park it for some time. Having spoken about stress for so much, for so many years, we all have been speaking and experiencing stress. We also know how we respond to stress, right? You know what your personal responses are, whether it is physical or physiological, whether it's emotional or even cognitively. So let's just quickly see if we know what we mean. Yes, Lalita ma'am, health, right? The first impact that we see when a situation is causing stress for us is a physical reaction to it. So what is our physical, what are some of the physical reactions to stress? Yeah, sweating. We start sweating. We feel some sort of a palpitation maybe, right? What is a physiological reaction to stress? Could be high BP, could be ulcers over a period of time when the stress is constantly, when you're experiencing stress constantly. Yes, headache, and developing diabetes, high BP. These are all physiological stresses. What are the emotional signs that you are under stress? Emotionally, yes. Feeling sleepy is also physical. Now, emotionally, what is the sign that we are undergoing stress? Irritable, yes, thank you. Irritability, anger, right? Signs of frustration, vulnerability, feeling extremely vulnerable, not able to concentrate. Yes, these are all different signs. So we know what the different symptoms or signs of experiencing stress is. So we will now move on directly into how to cope with stress. Isn't that what we all want to know? No? How do we cope? Yes. Having a sick father and having a husband who's not well, yes, it's just one on top of the other, and it's very difficult. But trust me, all of us, Ramya just now said that, ma'am, I don't know what you're experiencing inside, but outside you seem to be very calm. Trust me, Ramya, I am calm even outside. If this had happened, thank you. If this had happened maybe 10 years back, or 2007 when I first started my training, I would have been in a terrible state, But now I've learned that it's okay. Whatever happens in life happens for a reason. And there are always others who will manage. Like here, Ramya and ma'am, Dr. Puamal, and I think Durga was sharing some video.
There was a team. Yeah, there is a team, ma'am, definitely.
Yes. Durga was sharing the video. So, there is somebody to take care of things. We don't have to fret too much about it, right? So today, like how I focused on one particular model for understanding stress, I've also decided to focus only on cognitive coping strategies. Okay, so there are so many coping strategies. I'm sure some of you already use some of it and it works for you. Some of you might be trying something new. But today I'm going to just focus on different cognitive coping strategies. Okay, so let's take a look at it. I have some 6 or 7 strategies. No, actually, I have 9. Yeah. So the first cognitive coping strategy is reframing. No, you all have heard about what reframing is. So frame, the first thing which comes to our mind when we talk about frame is the photo frames, right? So you have a particular picture on the wall in your house or in your office, and there's a frame already. But after some time, you want to change the frame because it has become old or you got used to it and you just want something new and exciting. So maybe you'll walk to a framer and ask him to put it, or you've seen a frame somewhere and you want the same frame. So you take the same picture, give it to the person who frames it and get a new frame done. And now suddenly the same picture is looking so much more beautiful again, right? And that's exactly what we do in reframing as a tool for coping with stress. Okay, so what do? Instead of focusing on the bad, we'll focus on the good. As simple as that. Good and bad is also our own definitions, right? Nobody has come and told us that these are all good things, these are all bad things. We only have given meaning to it and made it good or bad. So what I can think of as bad, I can very well give it a different meaning and make it look like good. No? So the first thing we do is focus on what is good instead of focusing on bad. Second thing is in the language that we use, instead of saying should, must, I will start using verbiage like I want to. No? The moment someone says you must do it, even many of you with your own children or with your students, when you say you must do it, you should do it, immediately there'll be one rebel inside the child. Why should I do it? No? That's our human tendency. So instead of saying should or must, we will start saying want. So for example, many of you might be studying for doing your doctorate. No, some of you might be PhD students. So if you have to read a chapter which is very difficult, you might use the word which says, you might say to yourself, oh, I have to read this difficult chapter. I must read it because it's important, but I must read it. The moment, you're using two things here. One is you're saying you must do it. So automatically the rebel inside you is saying, why must you do it? What will happen if you don't do it? And the other thing is we are already labeling the chapter as difficult. So I must read this difficult chapter means already you're setting yourself up for not being able to understand it. How can we reframe the same statement? Can someone try reframing this statement? I must read this difficult chapter.
I think you gave the answer already, ma'am.
Yeah?
You gave the answer already, I think, the statement.
Did I? What did
I want to read. Yeah. See,
No.
someone.
even I have to is equal to I should and I must.
No, I want to read. That someone answered now.
Someone said that. Who did that?
Savita Naren.
Savita.
Savita.
What you'll say is, I want to understand this chapter.
Yeah.
So you see, you are removing the should and must. You are also removing that label that it's a difficult chapter. You're telling yourself, I want to understand. So when you say that, trust me, you know, your subconscious mind will automatically help you to understand. No, the language that we use is so important. So the first cognitive tool I spoke about is reframing. Now the second one is challenging your negative thinking. So many times we are our biggest enemies. We can also be our biggest supporters. It's up to us to choose what we want to be for ourselves, right? So many times before starting off something, we'll say, oh, I don't think I can do it. Oh, do I have enough skills for doing this? Okay. Oh, what if I fail? What if I don't live up to her expectations? So even before anybody else finds something wrong with us, we set ourselves up for failure by saying that I'm not good enough for it. So you challenge your own negative thinking. So when you challenge your own negative thinking, what will happen is when I say that, oh, I don't think I'm good enough, then I'll say, why do you think you're not good enough? What is required in this particular assignment which has been given to me by my head of the department? What is required of me? I need to have ABC skills. I need to have DEF knowledge. Do I have ABC skills? Do I have DEF knowledge? That's all. So you see what we're doing is we are dealing with facts. If I have the skills, I have the knowledge, good. That means I'm adequate enough. If I do not have the skills, I do not have the knowledge, it will encourage me to upskill myself or to go and get that knowledge. Instead of beating myself and say, oh, I don't think I'll do it. I know definitely I'm going to make a mess out of this. So challenge your negative thinking because it helps us to examine facts. And when we examine facts, if it's required, it helps us to upskill ourselves or to get the knowledge that we need. It also helps us to understand ourselves better. Maybe I actually have the skill, but I'm not aware of it. But when I question myself and say, why do you think you will fail at this? Why do you think you're not good enough at this? Why do you think that, you know, somebody can do it better than you? When I have the answers for that, I'll be able to examine, oh, that's all is needed. This I already know. This I already have. Okay. So the second tool that we are using is challenging our own negative thought patterns. The third thing, which falls directly from the second, is positive self-talk. No, how to challenge your own negative thinking? One is by looking at facts and figures, and second is also by giving yourself a good talk. How do you talk to yourself? What are the words you use? Do you pat yourself on your back mentally? Are you always looking for somebody else to do it? Because others may or may not do. People are very stingy, trust me, sometimes. There are very few people who are very generous in giving you compliments. So don't wait for them. Give yourself positive talk, even positive affirmations, even with others. You know, I remember in one of my earliest programs, there was a lecturer from one of the engineering colleges from near Chennai. And his issue was he had two small children. They were about third standard and fifth standard, two girls. He said every day waking them up in the morning and getting them ready for school is a big headache. So every day there used to be a problem for him. Every day, because of the kids, he's going late to college. So after he attended one of my sessions, it was a continuous 1 week session, he went and changed his strategy. He started calling his children sunshine. He used to tell them, you know, oh, my beautiful sunshine, how are you today? Get up, there's a wonderful day waiting for you. All such language. Trust me, he called me back after a week or 10 days and he said, now my children look forward to me waking them in the morning and they get up immediately. Instead of 10 minutes of shouting at them, he spends 2 minutes of giving them love and positive affirmations. That's all it takes. If you can work for small children, trust me, it can work with adults. Yeah, and it can work with ourselves. Okay, now we move on to the fourth one, which is very common. That is counting to 10. Even in Tamil and in all our languages, different languages, they say, pani pee ke fir bolna. Yeah, like you say, drink some water, then you talk. Or just breathe, then you talk. Some people say count to 10. What does that mean? All it means is the moment you are experiencing stress, don't react to it. We are not chemicals, right? Chemicals will react. Let them do the reacting. We are human beings. We have a beautiful brain, which will help us to think. So before we respond, so please see the word I'm using is respond instead of react. Before we respond to a particular situation, we will think and then respond. That's why you count up to 10. When you count to 10, you're taking a pause. You're allowing your mind to just calm down. The emotion that has been triggered is being calmed down, and then we give a response. Okay, but very difficult. When we are actually in the situation, very difficult. So see how you can remind yourself of this. The next one is do a proper cost benefit analysis. What am I going to get if I jump into this highly stressful situation? Sometimes we don't even have to deal with the situation. Yes, life keeps throwing stressful situations at us. But do we need to indulge in all these situations? Not necessary. Like for example, you are living in an apartment complex and there is an argument going on between two neighbors. Some of us will go jump right in, and try to solve the issue for them. When actually you're just rushing, you need to go to college or you need to go to work. But then you want to go, no, they are my friends, so you jump in. But do you need to? Sometimes not necessary. So, I like this thing I read somewhere that life keeps throwing balls at you, but you don't have to catch all the balls. You catch what you want. That's all. But just because it's throwing, you'll be trying to catch everything. In the process, you will drop all the balls, even the ones which you actually wanted to catch. So learn, do the cost benefit analysis. How much of value is it for me to engage in this particular situation? How much of value is it for me to invest my emotions and my energy into this situation? Of course, this cannot be done when you're triggered emotionally. But when you're calmed down a bit, definitely you can do this kind of a engagement. I give you an example of neighbors. Why neighbors? Even in the family, whether it's a joint family or nuclear family, maybe there's some, something disturbs you, your husband or your mother-in-law or your mother, your father, your child says something. Siva, yeah, thank you, Siva. So somebody says something to you. Do you always have to respond to them or react? Not necessary, right? But many of the times what we do jump in. Something, my mother-in-law may be talking something with her sister. It's none of my business. It's really none of my business. Even if she's talking about me, it's none of my business. Over the last few years, one policy I have developed. If somebody comes and tells me that that person told like this about you, I don't pay attention. If that person tells it directly to me, I will respond to it. If they don't tell it, either they should tell it directly to me or they should tell it where I can hear it myself. Then I will respond. But otherwise, I will not respond to any situation. My mother-in-law wants to tell good things about me, let it be. That's also not going to affect me. She's going to crib about it. Even that is not going to affect me. Okay. So everything that life throws at us, we don't have to pick. So always do the cost benefit analysis and see, is it really of value to me? Will it really be helpful to me? Will it add, one of my students got injured and you had to take her to the hospital, delayed at my workplace. Okay. Ruma, this is current or previous experience? I didn't understand. But yeah, So always do the cost benefit analysis and see whether you really need to take that stress in your life or not. Seriously, ladies, are there any men, ma'am, in the group? Yeah, they are. Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am. Few are there. Few are there.
ladies and gents. Okay, I'll just call all of you guys. Okay.
No, it's okay. Not many. Yeah, they don't mind. Yeah, they know that mostly are women. Yeah.
The important thing is, it's important for us to just understand how much of stress do I need to take in my life. Please, if anybody feels that stress is being thrust on you, please change that. Change that perception that you have. Because if I am experiencing stress today, it's because I'm allowing it to stress me. I can very well use any of these cognitive tools and stop a particular demand from being stressful on me by using these cognitive tools, reframing, or stopping my negative thought patterns, or any of these. The next tool is smell the roses. When was the last time any of you picked up a bunch of flowers and smelled it? Huh? When was the last time any of you handled flowers? Some of you who have gardens, either, at home, they must have done it. But we really have stopped doing it, no? South Indian women, we love putting those mogra, the jasmine flowers, gundumalli flower in our hair. When was the last time you actually smelled it and enjoyed it? This is just a metaphor for when was the last time you enjoyed life? Stop that. We are going in one speed. We have got into the car, we have started the vehicle, third gear, fourth gear, we are going in one speed, and we just wrote fantastic. Rajnikanda is one of my favorite flowers. Thank you, Ruma, for reminding me of it. That flower smell sometimes is just enough to remove all the stress from your head, just like our Gundumalli. Okay, so take time from that speed that you have decided to go on in life. Take a pause, take a break, get down, look at the flowers, look at the scene around you, and enjoy these things. There is no point always being on the clock. No, I have to finish this, I have to finish that, I have to finish this, next something else is there. Then what's the point? What is the point of life? So take the time to stop and smell your roses. The next cognitive tool is check what your perspective is. Again, I'm telling you, because we all give our own meanings to situations. Someone was saying something, I could hear an anger in her tone. Maybe she was not angry. Maybe she had a very tough day at home, and that's why when she came, she was speaking in a particular tone. But then I will give a meaning to what she was saying, and I'll say that, oh, she's angry and she's irritated with me. So always recheck your perspective. Ask yourself, is this really a problem for me? Is this really a priority for me? Focus on what you have to do rather than the feelings that get triggered in us. No, it's very easy for us to get flowed away with emotions. And we have also movies, songs, everything which encourages this. Yes, emotions is a very important part of us. It helps us to understand and connect with each other much better. But having said that, understand whether you're having the correct perspective. How do you know when you're dealing with somebody else? How do you know whether your perspective is right with regard to them? Check with them. No? How many times do we check with somebody? What are you feeling? Instead of directly jumping and asking, are you angry with me? So we are already labeling what that person is feeling. Maybe she's not angry actually. Maybe she's a little upset because you promised to do something with her, but you didn't do it with her. Okay. Or she called you and you didn't talk to her. She wanted to, vent out something, but you didn't talk to her. So she's a little upset that you have not made time. But immediately we'll put a label to it. Are you angry? So always check your perspective and see whether you are having the right perspective about something. The next way of handling stress at a very cognitive level is reduce your uncertainty. What do I mean by that? Nothing, very simple. Do your homework. Be prepared. If you're getting into a particular situation, then understand the situation, be ready for that situation. No? if you do your homework, if you get all your facts and figures in place, if you understand what all is required and what all demands may be made on you other than this, then you will not have any uncertainty about what is going to happen, because things will be more in our control. No, in stress, normally things are not in our control. That's why we feel that particular stress. So reduce your uncertainty by collecting data and facts and figures, by understanding the correct meaning, by being prepared for wherever you're going. So if you're going for a particular situation, you're making a presentation, you have a meeting, or you're going to meet the teachers of your child in your child's school, whatever it is, go prepare for it. That's the next cognitive coping strategy we have. The ninth one is using imagery and visualization. Okay, visualization can be used in so many ways. Here, how do you use visualization for managing stress? When you're feeling stress, just go sit in a place and recollect a happy event or a happy situation. And when you're recollecting, you have to recollect it in its entirety. So all your senses should be involved in it. What were the images you saw? So maybe it was a celebration, maybe it was an old friend whom you met, maybe it was a quiet time that you spent with your spouse. It could be anything. Maybe it was a great presentation you made, or maybe it was just a wonderful book that you read. So whatever was a happy memory that you have, recollect that and experience it once again with all your senses. So remember all the images that you saw then. Remember the colors vividly. Hear the sounds. If it was a celebration, who all was there? Who said what? If there was something that you ate, remember the tastes of the things. What did you feel that time? The joy, that excitement, that happiness, or the calm, whatever you felt. Okay. So bring all those experiences back into your mind. That itself will help you to reduce your stress. Visualization can also be used for ensuring success. Like for example, when you're going to do a presentation, if making presentations is a stressful event for you, then what do you have to do? Of course, you have to prepare your presentation very well. Content should be very good. You have to practice delivering it so many times. But along with all this, what you have to do is visualize giving that presentation. So on the day of the presentation, imagine yourself how you get up, happy, energetic, anticipating a great presentation, getting ready in the best dress that you have. Imagine you going to that room where you're giving your presentation, and imagine the people over there already coming, sitting, settling down in their places. Imagine you giving the presentation. As you're giving the presentation, imagine the confidence you're feeling, how in control you're feeling. Imagine the audience all listening to you with attention. Imagine it right till the end, till you conclude your presentation, when everybody is having happy faces, people are clapping for you. And you are also feeling very, very happy that you made a great presentation. And that's the entirety of visualization. You know, many of us know that visualization is a great tool, but why it doesn't work for us? Because we do not do it in its entirety. So whether it is for using it as a tool for managing stress, where you're remembering an old event, you have to imagine that happy event in its entirety with all your senses. Same way, if you're using visualization as a tool for ensuring success, you have to visualize it till the end, where you see yourself taking, accepting all the praise that is coming to you, or whatever the activities, whether it is you want to learn how to drive a car, imagine yourself driving with full confidence, not sweating, nothing, enjoying it peacefully, sitting in a good posture, not sitting like this, looking at the road. So imagine the entire thing, and that's how visualization can be a great tool for you for managing stress, or even for ensuring success in whatever activity you want. And now that will bring us to the last cognitive tool that we have for coping with stress, and that is acceptance. I think all the spiritual teachers will tell you, accept your situation. Something is happening with you, accept it. Instead of going into that questioning mode, why is it happening with me? Why does it always have to be only me? How come all the others are fine, but I never get to lead a life peacefully? Even 2 days of peace I don't have. Immediately something else will come. No. What's the point of these questions? You only are adding on to your stress, right? Instead, accept the situation the way it is. And be in the here and now. These two things, these two mantras, if you really follow, no, 50% of your anxiety, stress, and everything will go out of our life. So accept that this is the situation, accept these are the resources I have, accept that this is the meaning I am giving to this particular situation, and this is my solution for it. If the stress gets resolved, fantastic, be happy. If it doesn't get resolved, it's okay. Next, what do you do? Okay. So these 10 cognitive coping strategies is what we have for managing stress or dealing with the stress that we have in our life. You know, one saying from Mark Twain, I really love it. He said that a lot of unpleasant things, I have gone through many unpleasant things in my life. Okay. I've gone through many unpleasant things in my life, some of which really happened. So we put so many things, we put ourselves through so many unpleasant things, imagine, situation, kacha mucha we make in our heads. But Kadsila Pata, we'll see only a few of those things would have actually happened in our life. Okay. So that's why it's important when you're feeling stress. It's very easy, you know, in stress you have this no fight or flight. That's the first response that you have. But like I said, as human beings, we can take that pause, take a deep breath, take 2 steps backwards and examine the situation in a much more calmer and much more objective way. And that will help us to deal with stress. Now, I want you to go back to those areas of stress that you would all have noted down, right? I hope you did. Quickly look at those 2 situations that you have noted down and see which of these coping strategies you can use. Anyone who would like to share off the cuff? See the situation that you've written, and I've just listed 10 coping strategies. Which one do you think you could use?
Yeah. Participants can unmute and talk.
Yes, please unmute and speak. Yes.
Rumadev ma'am, yeah, you can talk, ma'am.
Acceptance as the situation comes, because off and on I am facing so many problems. So it really becomes difficult.
Right.
To cope up, to accept that why always one after the other is coming.
Right. That's good. Okay. Thank you, Ruma ma'am. Anybody else? I refuse to believe that the rest of you don't have any stress in your lives.
We do have, ma'am. I do go by this situation where you said accept the situation, and the other one, smell the roses. Yes.
Smell the roses.
So yes, maybe I didn't give time to that particular part of it. I just ignored it. So maybe I'll have to go back to it, enjoy it, and then I should not be stressing about it. Only when I enjoy it, I feel I'll not stress on that.
Right. You know, having said that, the last 1.5 years, I'm sure for many of us, it was difficult to calm down. We were all in a heightened state of awareness because of the COVID situation. No? So even in that, how do we do it is what? Yes, Shalini.
Yes, ma'am. Namaskar, ma'am. Whenever I'm stressed, I like to cook. I cook something in the kitchen, or I listen to songs, or if it is just going in my mind, I just talk to my best friend,
Right.
and I burst in front of her because I know she's not going to share with anybody.
Yes, fantastic. So, you know, Shalini, for me also, cooking and ironing, these are 2 stress busters.
Here, one side, Durga has a message saying that leaving kitchen is happiness for her. So, see, that different, yeah.
Okay. Well,
I was really
Different
seeing that.
perspectives with the kitchen.
Yeah, she wants to
One
come
says-
out of kitchen. Yeah.
Yes,
come
ma'am. If I feel stressed, and I'll put it. I'll announce that today kitchen is leave.
whatever works for who. See, this is why we are all so different from each other. Human beings are so dynamic. For Shalini and for me, when we are stressed out, we like to cook. So if anybody in my family sees me in the kitchen making jam or pickle in the night, or if I'm ironing clothes at 12:30, they'll know that she's stressed out and they'll leave me alone. Okay, they won't come anywhere nearby. So
Maybe,
whatever,
correct.
the important thing is we all have to choose. Yes, Meenu ma'am, ironing and managing things gives impression that everything is fine in life. Yeah, sometimes we feel it's back in our control, right? Yes. So whatever works for each of us, please remember there is no one shoe fits all. But these cognitive coping strategies that I spoke about just now, this is something that all of us can apply. Okay. If we want to lead a much more happier, less stressed lives, then we should all try to, we should try to incorporate at least one or two of them in our lives. It doesn't come easily. When you start practicing one thing, for a week or 10 days, then it becomes a default way of behaving or thinking. So that's how you have to incorporate. So I have listed out 10. Like Ramya just said that she has chosen smelling the roses. Fine. Out of these 10, choose at least one coping strategy and start practicing it. See, the important thing is practice it and give it space to succeed. What we do, we take something new and we try it in a very difficult situation and we say it didn't help, waste, throw it. Don't do that. Take any one strategy and try it in a low risk area, in small areas, and give the strategies a chance to succeed. Because if someone like me, trust me, I have 25 years of experience in industry. I've been working for 25 years now. Okay. And I've been doing training and counseling since 2005. So if I'm bringing something to you guys, trust me, I have tried it. I have checked whether it works and then only I'll bring it to you. So please give it a chance to succeed. That's what I'm saying. Whether it is a new strategy, whether it's a new knowledge, a new skill, or new relationship, everything we should give it a chance to succeed instead of immediately becoming, ISO people and find what is wrong in it and say, no, this is not going to work. Instead of being critical about anything. Okay, anybody else wants to share any other stress and any other coping strategy before we move on to the second topic that we have for today?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my stress, as I already stated, that for me, the biggest stress at present is managing my teenage children.
Yes.
So once, as a parents, once we try to make our point, they have always say, why should I? As you very rightly said. And it always happens. Many times I try to give them the environment that let us treat them as adults and let us take their opinion. But always they say something that just, it's a blast in my mind. And I lose patience. And then just get out of the room. I go to my garden, I do something, I iron my clothes or do something. Then I come back and try to just manage the things after 1 or 2 days. And for 2 days, I remain on silent mode only. I will not speak anything in between.
The important thing, Dr. Meenu, while dealing with children, especially teenage children, is to remember that we are the adult in that equation. We always forget that we are the adult and we get into their level and try to reach to them. That's one thing. The second thing that I would like to say just off the cuff is that don't get drawn into the emotion, or the behavior. The behavior is what will irritate us. Try to focus on the subject. What is the issue that you have with the child? If you focus more on the subject rather than the behavior that the child is exhibiting, it'll be more easier for us to handle them. But most of the time, because we are also human, even if we are adults, we are also human, we get caught into that emotional drama that the children create and we start reacting with them instead of responding. Okay. I know these 2 tips are not enough for dealing with children. There's so much more we need, but these are 2 things you can start off with.
Yes, ma'am. At least we can try practicing. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw someone write that, I have a good meal. Yes. Have a nice, satisfying meal. All of us have some comfort foods, no? Like for me, my comfort food is rasam and rice. So when I'm not feeling too great, if I have something spicy like rasam and rice, then I feel good. For each of you, you might have your own. Someone may have an ice cream. Someone may choose some cakes, whatever it is. Yes, Savita. Savita, you want to say something?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Very nice session, ma'am. Actually, I'm teaching for undergraduate students.
Okay.
For the past 1 year, my stress was teaching, online teaching.
I know.
It had different dimensions of stress. Like technically, we were totally new to this.
Yeah.
And then without seeing faces, as you told, it's difficult for a teacher. We
Yes.
look at the expression, whether they understand or whether we need
You
to
can,
repeat
you
it.
can come on video, Savita ma'am.
Actually,
Yeah. You are able to?
yeah, I am sitting in my college.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No problem.
So it was very difficult to take the class without seeing the faces.
Right.
Usually we assess whether we have to repeat the facts again, seeing their expressions. So it was very difficult for us. And also, without the video, we know that only a few of the students are listening to our class. It is not a nice feeling. When it is, because we are putting whole of our effort, everything in preparing the slides and in explaining our energy or everything, but the output will be totally different.
Right.
So it was difficult, but then God gave me strength to accept and rise up to the
Yes.
that, it was,
Yes. You know, I remember when just after COVID had hit last year in March, I think in April or something, SRM Andhra campus had asked me to do a program on stress for kids. So Zoom was absolutely new for me. And that was the first session I was doing on Zoom. And I started off, I thought I had everything ready and I started the session. But of course, there were about 40 or 50 kids. None of them wanted to keep the videos on. So that was one challenge, Savita ma'am. So I understand what you're saying.
Even the time management, like we have to complete within a stipulated time. It was very difficult.
Absolutely. And you know what happened? I didn't realize that time my Wi-Fi had a limit of only 2 or 3 GB. And that was not enough to support the video for the entire program. So you learn, as you go. So after that first program, after midway, my video went off, but thankfully my voice was still the audio. So the rest of the program I conducted without my own video. So we learned. So then I upgraded the Wi-Fi and now I have an unlimited Wi-Fi, which again, like today you saw, has totally given up on me. But yeah, the second thing is about the videos, which you said. Just about 2 weeks back, my friend and my colleague, Priya, with whom I worked together, we did a program for a organization, a government organization, a particular program. We had done it in 2 batches for junior level officers and mid-level officers. When we did for the junior level officers, many of them didn't want to put on the videos on. Some of them were working from office, some from home. Repeatedly, we kept telling, in fact, we told the organization to send a mail ahead saying that video should be on. In spite of it, out of about 13 or 15 participants, only 5 or 6 had the videos on. And at the end of the program, I was not happy at all with the way the workshop went. I was not content. Just the next day, we had the program for this middle management. Same content, same program. All of them had the videos on. And it was such an amazing workshop. So all these things so much make a lot of difference to the quality of the work or even quality of life. But then these are the things that we have to deal with. We have to accept. There will be people who will not put on their videos. In spite of that, how will we have a great workshop? Is what we have to accept and adjust accordingly. See, one of the things is when people don't put on the videos, automatically in our mind we'll think, are they even paying attention? Are they even sitting in front of the monitor first and foremost? I like to think that they are there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Even with the video also, whether if they want only, they can listen to us. Otherwise, they may be mentally they were outside. We'll think it like that. That's it.
I like to think of it as a Michael Jackson show. If you see Michael Jackson shows, there are thousands of people in the audience. But can he see everybody's faces? He cannot. But he still gives an amazing performance. No, that's how we should be. When we are teaching, whether they are listening or not, they are all thousands of unknown faces, whether they're paying attention or not. I will give the best that I can give.
That's what, ma'am. This crisis period has taught me this.
Yes, yes. Because out of now I can see 110 participants. Out of 110, for me, honestly, even if 10 of you will take away something from here, no, that will be satisfaction. Okay. Okay. Now let's. Savita ma'am also spoke about time management. So let's do even that here. So I'm quickly moving on to the second topic for the day, and that is about work-life balance, which is a very important thing for all human beings who are working at home and working outside. So irrespective of whether you're male or female, this is an issue for everybody, right? But here, since there's a majority of women, we'll also look about that. So first, let's understand what is work-life balance. Okay, for most of us, if we are not able to manage our personal life as well as the role that we play in our workspace, if there's a sense of loss of control in either of these spaces, we feel that there is an imbalance. No, we don't have a proper work-life balance. So largely it is about, again, sense of loss of control. So work-life balance is also one of the reasons for stress. No, there are so many reasons for stress, what we spoke about. Work-life balance is also one of the reasons, imbalance is also one of the reasons for stress. So all we need to know is whether my role here at home is, I'm giving it full justice, and whether my role at work is also, I'm able to give full justice without feeling stressed out. That's what work-life balance is. But having said that, there is no definition which fits all of us. Okay. Work-life balance is a very, very personal concept. Same situation, maybe I will feel a lesser sense of balance, whereas maybe Professor Puvamal will feel a much greater sense of balance. Another situation, Ramya may feel, oh my God, I don't know how I'll do it. But in a different situation, Ramya may feel, oh, this is perfectly in my control. So work-life balance is also something which is very, very personal, and it is also very, very dynamic. It's not necessary that one particular situation today, I'm feeling a certain level of balance. Same situation tomorrow, you may see me totally, collapsing or not being able to manage it, because there's so many other external factors in the environment which impacts our own work-life balance. Okay. So how do we arrive at the right balance is the question for us. No. So like in the earlier session, it was, how do I cope with stress? I cannot do away with stress. Stress is an integral part of my life. So how do I cope with it? Now let's see, work and life, both are equally important. So how do I ensure that there's a balance? So one thing which I remember seeing in one BBC interview with a particular business class in India, a particular community who's very much into business, all big businessmen. I remember one of them saying that there is no question of work-life balance for us, because work is life and life is work. Okay, I have had a lot of people ask me when I say I'm traveling before this COVID time, and I'm traveling, they'll ask, are you traveling for work or for pleasure? Trust me, for me, both are same. So I enjoy my work so much that it is pleasure. So if you're able to reach that space, and if you're lucky enough to have a profession which, is also your passion, which is not easy for everybody, then this work-life balance is not such a big issue. But for many people, we take on professions, careers, which we have to, right? And there are certain things, events happening in our life. Because of this imbalance comes. Let's see how to get back that balance, how to manage, bring our life into a certain right balance. Okay. So even as I speak, in the next, I'll be talking about 4 different things. When I talk, I want you guys to examine for yourself and relate it to your own lives. Okay. So first thing is, think of a time when you felt totally out of control. When you felt that, the balance between work and life was very bad, very tumultuous. So think of any such time in your life. So as you think of that particular, let it be a particular event, a particular situation, a particular time or phase in your life. At that time, think about all the symptoms that you felt when you were out of control. So describe what you felt. What would you have felt? Maybe you would have felt panicky, You would have felt very, very stressed out. You would have felt nervous. Maybe you felt ill. Maybe you felt low. No, there could be so many. Whatever was your feeling at that particular instance that you have chosen to think about in your minds, list out all the symptoms that you felt. Then think about how would the people who you work with, how would they have described you in that particular period? No, your colleagues with whom you worked, your peers or your subordinates or your bosses, what were the things they told you? They would have told you something like, why are you looking so stressed out? No, why are you looking so pale? Or someone would have asked you, are you ill? You're looking somehow to me. So just try and remember how they described you, how your colleagues described you during that particular time. Yeah, it's very easy to feel very hypertensive, yes, when you feel stressed out. Then try to remember in that same period, how did your family or friends, close friends, how did they describe you? Maybe they would have asked you, maybe your children would have asked you, why are you always angry, Amma? No? Or somebody would have asked you, you're looking very dull today. Are you ill? Are you not feeling well? So just try and remember all those ways in which your colleagues or your family and friends described you. So that's the first thing. What you have done is you have listed out all the symptoms of being out of balance. Okay. Now let's go the same situation. Go back and look and see what triggered that particular situation. What triggered that state of imbalance in you? What were the triggers? So was it an action that you did? Was it something that you did? Maybe unnecessarily you went and you spoke to somebody about an event which happened 10 years back and that has set off a chain of events. Or was it an action that you did not take? Maybe you were supposed to do something. Your boss gave you some work to be done, but you were not able to complete it, right? So try and see what triggered that particular emotional state. So for this exercise, people, to be effective, you should choose one event, one time in your life when you felt out of control. Okay, choose. So you can do this exercise for all the times that you felt out of control separately. Now, what is that going to achieve if we do this? At the end of it, we will know what are the triggers, right? So what you're doing is, second part of this thing was, first one was listing symptoms. Now you're seeing the triggers. So was it an action you took? Was it an action you didn't take? Or was it an external event or a person? Maybe somebody, a new maid you have hired. No, you have kept a new maid at home and she's come and you are in a rush to leave and she's not completed the works, and when you question her, she speaks rudely to you. That's enough, no, to spoil your mood for the rest of the day. No? So try and remember for that particular event, what was it that triggered that state of imbalance in you? When you do this, you're looking at symptoms, you're looking at the triggers for different instances where you are out of balance. Now you'll find a common thread. So this is another way of introspection, right? What do we do in introspection? We look at the events that happened before, what happened, how it happened, what did I do, what I didn't do, what did somebody else do, what I did well, I will continue doing, what I did not so good, I will try to change it, right? So this is also one way of introspecting on the events that happen with you. So you look for common theme. See what are the common things that have triggered you most often, okay? And then you have with you a list of triggers that will cause you imbalance. And when you get that imbalance, you'll also know how you behave. So now you know how to, what do we do when I know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things are triggers. I know that if one particular girl, if I see her that day, she will always spoil my mood. What do I do then? Every day I will go in front of her desk, no, to get angry and irritated. No, exactly, Savita. I will avoid that person, right? Suppose the trigger, when I see the common thread, I see that most of the times in my life so far when I have felt imbalanced was when there was a deadline to meet, but I have not been able to meet the deadline. So then I know that having deadlines causes anxiety in me. So what should I do? I have to start planning well ahead of time. So if my deadline is 1 week from now, I should plan to be able to complete my jobs in 4 days or 5 days. So this way, by looking at the symptoms and then at the triggers for different times in your life when you felt out of balance, you'll be able to have a common theme and you will have a list of triggers which you then can avoid. You'll also have a list of symptoms of how you behave when you are undergoing that stress, and you'll know how to express stress better next time. For example, getting angry in the office for something, coming home and showing it on the child, or getting upset with this new maid at home and going and showing it in the office or in the bus, in the share auto or in the bus. Someone comes and sits next to you and you push them and say, why you're sitting so close to me? So everything then becomes a chain event, and unnecessarily you get into a problem with people and therefore spoiling your own experience for the day. So we have been looking at events which caused us to feel out of balance. So I want all of you to just close your eyes. For a few seconds. Close your eyes. Too many negative things we were talking about. Breathe deeply. Take a nice deep breath in, and as you breathe out, just leave out all these negative things that we have been, negative memories that I asked you to think about. No? Durga has already finished and opened her eyes also. Yeah. Yeah, so nicely breathe in, and as you breathe out, please let go of all these old memories that I have now evoked to use an example for understanding how to bring the right balance in our life. Now let's go into something. Yeah, now you can open your eyes. Now let's go into another part of our life. So if there have been times when we are feeling out of balance, definitely there have also been times when we have felt imbalance. No? When you have felt in control of your own life. Now go back to your own life, your mental museum, look at your own events in your life and think about all those times when you felt imbalance. Choose any one such instance. When you felt everything was going well, you are in control of everything, nothing from outside is disturbing your equilibrium. No, you're happy and content. Think about that particular event. Now list out all the words to describe how you felt then. Can you tell me how you would have felt at a time when you felt in control, when things are in balance? Yeah, what would be? You have to unmute. Flying, yes. You feel like you're flying, no? You feel so light, yes. You feel very successful, yes.
Very confident.
You feel very confident, absolutely. You feel calm, you feel joyful, you feel, excited, depending on what.
Encouraged also.
Yes.
Encouraged to do.
You feel encouraged, yes, you feel encouraged. You feel a sense of inner peace. How would people describe you at that point of time when you were in control? How did your colleagues describe you? Think of that particular scene. They would have thought that you're being very helpful. Yes, you're a cool person. Someone might think you're a cool person. Someone might think you're very collaborative. You're a good teacher. You're so patient, right? You're so helpful. Yes, you're looking confident and beautiful. So these are all things in which your colleagues would have described you. Now go back, same event. How did your family and friends describe you? What would they say? Amma is superwoman. No? They would have felt that you're superwoman. Amma does everything. There's nothing. Up to her age, children always feel that Ammas are superwomen. They can do anything.
Great job.
Yeah, you feel great joy. People, maybe your family would have thought, oh, she's so patient, she's so calm, she looks confident. Yes, confident, who handles everything. People, your friends would have said, you're so cheerful. or they would have said, you're so much fun to be with. No, these are some things that you would have heard from people. Now again, we are doing the same thing that we did for the earlier exercise. First we saw the words symptoms. Now we're looking, what are the triggers? What triggers? Yes, you feel that you have a magical power. You can do anything that you want, right? But what triggers this imbalanced state? Does it happen by itself? No. Even imbalanced state, just like going out of balance, we are responsible for going out of balance. Yes, right, correct. Savita has rightly said that to be able to be in an imbalanced state, what you need is constant and consistent practice. That no matter what is happening around me, everything can be falling apart. I will stay calm. I will stay in control. I will do things which are in my control, and things which are beyond my control, I'll leave it. I'll leave it to others or leave it to a higher power to take care of. Right? So like in this COVID time, we are all doing all that we can, wearing masks, using sanitizers, keeping distance, washing vegetables, drinking hot water, kashayam, steaming, everything we're doing. But beyond that, if something happens, then it has happened. Now, suppose in my family, someone has become a COVID positive. The next step is how to take care of that person. There's no point in sitting and lamenting about it, right? So now see what triggered this imbalanced state. Was it a result of an action that you took? Was it a result of something that you did? Or was it an external event or a person? Sometimes it can be external also, no? Somebody whom you love very much but haven't seen for so many months has suddenly dropped in. You feel so happy. That day you will be over exuberant. You will spread the joy to everybody. Right? The same reverse is also true. Someone whom you don't like at all has suddenly landed at home. Immediately your mood goes for a toss and you make life miserable for everybody around you. Right? So was it an external event or a person? Again, find a common thread. This is something that I recommend all of you should do, because like ma'am just said in the beginning, work-life balance is something that everybody talks about. But finding the right work-life balance is not something that can be given to you in a platter. Nobody can gift it to you. You have to work on it. You have to work and you have to bring the right balance. And the first step to doing that is working on yourself, understanding yourself better. What are those things that triggers an imbalance? What are the things which can bring me back into balance? And when I'm imbalanced, how do I behave? How do people perceive me? And when I'm in balance, how do I behave? How do I show that? And how do people perceive me? If you have an understanding of that, it will help you to bring that right balance back easily, much more easily and much more quickly. Because trust me, no matter how good you are at it, life will always go into imbalance once in a while. It's not that once you have mastered it, you'll forever be able to manage that same equilibrium. No, it's definitely not going to happen. Okay. So right now at this moment, I want you all to just peep into your own hearts and minds and see how are you feeling right now on a scale of balance. 1 is totally imbalanced, 10 is totally balanced. Where do you rate yourself? Give me a number, show it with your fingers. Nice. Uma ma'am is showing 8. Good. Balanced. Anyone else? At this moment, how are you feeling? Ramya, 10? 9. Fantastic. Good. Happy to see that. No? When you see people who are feeling balanced, it encourages you to try and bring back your own balance. 9 from Dr. Sunita Verma. Nice. Good. So once in a while, recheck. When you're doing something, anything in your life, suddenly take a stop and ask. Ask yourself, where am I on this paradigm of imbalance and balance, work-life balance? Okay. So if you are in 5 or 6 or below 6, immediately do course correction. Immediately do course correction. But what we do, For months together, we don't bother about it. We'll be pushing ourselves, putting ourselves beyond all abilities. And finally, when we do it, everything will be so bad that we will find it difficult to bring the balance back. But instead, every few days, if you are able to do a mental check with yourself, where am I in terms of my own work-life balance? I'm below 6, immediately see what is it that I need to correct. Okay. And then try and bring it to 6 and above. If you're able to maintain it at 8, 9, and 10, then it's fantastic. So now let's go quickly and look at how do we get that work-life balance. What I helped you see right now was to understand what work-life balance is. Where are you in that paradigm of balance and imbalance? You're able to place yourself by understanding yourself. Let's see how to get that perfect or right work-life balance. First and foremost is understand, work out what are your values and priorities in life. For each of us, how do we understand? How do we know what is your value and priority in life? There is a tool for it. There is a tool for everything nowadays. You just have to have access to it. And I'm giving you this. It's as simple as just sitting here right now. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself at a very old age, say 75, 80. Okay? Imagine yourself at an old age and imagine that you have had a very, very satisfying life. When you're looking back at your long life that you have spent, imagine that you had a very satisfying life. What were the best parts of that satisfying life? Pick that out. Will you be able to do that? So maybe you're not reached 75, 80. None of us have reached there yet, I guess. But when you look back at your life right now, what are the things that has been satisfying for you? For me, since 2005, when I started doing training, my work has been very, very satisfying. Friends, amazing friends, support system. Family, who allowed me to leave one career midway and then start off in an absolutely different career. So these are things which has been satisfying for me. So yes, I can see Rumade saying that job has been satisfying. What else has it been? Quickly give me answers. Quickly look at your own lives. You should be able to do these things on the move. What has been satisfying in your life so far? What have been the best parts?
Yeah, respect from the children, which I get my respect. Yes. Everywhere, even till date, wherever they are, even in abroad, still they remain connected. And I got a lots of help from them when my son was suffering from COVID, which I can never forget. Means the only words which they said that, Madam, you had groomed us.
Fantastic.
What time we are able to give you.
What more do you need? Yes. So having gratitude, everything, the job, our own children. So I'm getting so many, responses here. So all these things. So look for yourself. And there's no right or wrong answer over here, okay? Whatever works for you, that's it. So see what are all those things which have been the best parts of your life. Now, you also have to do the other part because we have to understand ourselves completely, right? Now the same 75, 80-year-old Ruma Devi or Puvamal or Lakshmi or Vijay Rani or Megha or Ramya or Durya, we are looking back at our life and see, imagine those parts of your life which has not been satisfied. What are those things which, you feel, I could have done better. I should not have done this. Or I should not have had those events in my life. I should not have had those people in my lives. So imagine a wasted life. What are the things that you regret? Make a list of that also. Make a list of the best. Yes, Sharli, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I just think one thing that I could have studied better in my school days. I think I was not sincere enough at that time.
Yeah. But what to do? We can't rewind the clock. But at least from here on, the learning should be good. From here on, let the learning curve go up. Yeah? Because we are constantly studying, every time. We're all learning every minute of our lives. Yes, relationships. Someone says relationships. So what do I regret? Some of the relationships that I've had, I regret those. Maybe Some people regret not having traveled enough. Someone would have stayed in one place all their lives. They would have wanted to travel, but they didn't travel for whatever reasons, no? Or time not spent with people. Many of us would have lost touch with our childhood friends. Now, thanks to social media, of course, we are all, reconnecting in a big way. But that is also sometimes causing issues, reconnecting with some old things, right? So make this list of what are the best parts, what are the satisfying parts of my life. At the same time, what are the things that I regret? Now translate these into values. What all you have thought about, put them into values. So when you talk about, I have enjoyed the time I spent with friends or with my family, what is the value here? The value is relationship, right? So like that, list each of it as a value. And once we have done that, you will know what is your value or priority in life. This kind of a deep understanding is very required. Off the cuff, we might say, oh, I value this, I value that. But no, please delve into it more deeply. Make the list of things which have been amazing in your life. Make a list of things which you regret having done or not done in your life. And then make a list of your values and responsibilities. But remember, once you have worked out your values and responsibilities, take responsibility that these are my values and this is important for me. I think taking responsibility is something that all of us shy away from. No? We like to put the blame on others. If I have done something, if it goes well, the accolades, the praise is mine. If I've done something and it goes wrong, the blame is also mine. But most of the time, people prefer not to take responsibility. It's easy to say, you told me to do, that's why I did. Children always say, no, you told me to take this course, that's why I took the course. Now you see, I'm not getting a job. Okay. So never allow people to use that as an excuse. So even for you now, when you're trying to work out what is your value or priority in life, you please accept that this is my value, this is my priority, and I take responsibility for it. Okay. So for example, imagine one of you had a very important meeting. You had to go meet your boss, or your boss has come from out of town. You're meeting that person today, or a client, very important client has come. You really have to be there in the meeting. Just as you're getting ready to go, you see that your child is having 100 temperature. So the child has to be taken to hospital, to the doctor. Now what to do? What would you do?
Support system in the office or support system in the home?
Yeah, but tell me, what would you choose to do? Which one would you choose to do?
At that time, office support system, I will prefer office support system.
Okay. And you will take your child to the doctor, you're saying? Okay. You will tell somebody else to fill you in the office.
Yeah, office and yeah.
And you will take your child to the hospital. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. What would you do? What would anybody else? What would you do?
Same, ma'am. Cover in the office and take care of the child.
Okay. So two people who responded, both of them said that I will ask someone to cover for me in the office and I will take care of my child. There might be somebody else who would, Dr. Meenu, if you're okay, I will ask husband. Rina says, ask husband to take care, or I'll give medicine and go. Fine. The important thing is neither of it is the right or wrong choice. Okay. You can ask for someone to cover you in the office and you take care of your child, or you can ask for somebody to take the child to the hospital, like the husband or somebody else in the family, and you can very well go and attend your office meeting. Okay. The important thing that everybody needs to internalize this is that does not make you, just because you choose office over taking care of child, it does not make you a bad mother. Or because you've chosen to stay with the child and have not gone to meet your boss or the client, it does not make you any less of a professional. Okay. It's just that you have made a choice and live with that choice. That is the important thing. Now, don't say, I will stay with my child and then later keep cribbing for the next 2-3 weeks that, because she fell ill, she had ice cream and she got temperature. Because of that, I had to be with her and I couldn't go for that. I lost the opportunity to meet my client or my boss. Don't do that. You chose. Yes, Roma Devi, Roma De.
Yeah, ma'am, similar kind of situation, like my son was sick, like when your boss says that who would take over?
Yep.
It's the last minute. It has happened. We had an event and I was the coordinator there.
Right.
Suddenly he developed 102-degree fever.
Okay.
So in such cases, then boss sir said that, how would you handle this? You tell me, what would you do now if you were in my place?
Right.
So in such type of situation, ma'am, how to handle this? Because my son is obviously equally important.
So that's why I'm telling you that you have to make the choice. I cannot tell you you should do this or you should do that. Nobody can tell you. Here, everybody who's over here in this situation, it is I who has to decide which one is more important at that point of time.
Exactly.
So you have to. You tell me what do you think you would do? Which one is important for you?
For me is obviously my son. So
Okay, fine.
my boss sir says that this is your bread and butter earning organization. So it both are equally important.
So obviously, for your boss, you being there at work is more important because you coordinated, right? His priorities and his values are different. But you are not living your boss's life. You are living your life. So in your life, what is your priority? So when your boss says something like that, tell him, so I do understand that you must be feeling a little anxious because I will not be there to coordinate things for you. But trust me, delegate it to somebody else. Tell him, I'll be at home with my child, but I'm on call. I will give whatever support I can. And say, yes, this is my bread and butter. It's very important for me, but right now my child needs me. That's the kind of a dialogue you will need to have with your boss, right?
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
The opposite can also have, yes, absolutely, Reena. We will have to face repercussions for the choices. That is why I said you have to take responsibility for the choices that you make. Say that this is my choice and I will accept whatever the consequences are. Not, see, all of our choices cannot have desirable results for everybody. Not possible. No, we don't live in such an ideal world. So some of the choices that we make will definitely have repercussions and may also have, not so desirable consequences for others. But that is their issue. Let them deal with that. You deal with what you have to deal with. And one of the things you'll have to deal with is the negative repercussion. Like, for example, in Ruma's situation, the boss may be angry with her for a few days after that. No, or may not give her another chance to coordinate things. He'll say, last time I saw what happened. Last minute you bailed out. So I'm not going to give you another chance. But that's okay. See, it's okay. I was with my child. And that see, at the end of the day, you should have a clear conscience and you should feel content.
Yeah, the self-satisfaction.
Yes, you should be content and satisfied with the choices that you made. And definitely everybody is not going to be happy. You cannot. That's one of the things that we'll talk about. So the first thing you do is work out what your values and priorities are. So how you choose your values and priorities, how do you understand your values and priorities is that exercise that we did just now. Okay. The next one is be more flexible and adaptable. What does that mean? I mean, we hear this so often, no? See, the Charles Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. What does he say? He says that it's not the strongest or the fastest of the species which survives, but the ones most adaptable to change. Life is definitely it'll keep throwing new surprises at you. It's not going to be the same. How much you plan for the day and go, something will go out of control. Okay. How well we are able to manage that is what shows how emotionally and how psychologically adaptive we are. Okay. So in terms, being flexible and adaptable is also not only physically means to be healthy, and psychologically and emotionally and mentally is even your thoughts. Even your decisions, sometimes we say, no, I have decided this, we'll do only this. Not necessary. Maybe some new information, new data has come in because of which you can change your decision. Don't be rigid. Don't say that this is how I will do things, right? So in terms of your thoughts, in your decisions, as well as the working options that we have, no, I may have arranged for somebody to come and take care of my child. Last minute when I'm about to leave, that person may call and say, I cannot come because something has happened at her end. So then what is my second? Instead of shouting at her on the phone, or instead of telling, okay, fine, I will not go, I'll just sit at home and sulking, sitting at home. What are the other options? Quickly, you should be able to think. You should be mentally agile. But to be mentally agile, you also have to be physically agile, physically fit. So how many of you exercise daily? Show of hands. Yes, fantastic. So everybody needs, everything starts with physical fitness, being physically healthy. You be physically healthy, you'll also be able to manage stress. You'll be able to think faster, think on your feet, look out for things. Life will, like I said, it will always, see now, for example, I want you to look around you and see for any yellow color things which are around you, wherever you're sitting. The yellow color thing should be round. So it should be a round yellow color thing which has a diameter of more than 5 inches. But that yellow color thing should be in the middle of an orange square. Can you find it around you?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. It's not easy. So when I told you all to look at yellow color thing, all of you happily said, yeah, I spotted the yellow thing. No? Then I said round. So there was a little extra thing. Okay, some of you found it. Then I said it should be 5 inches diameter. Then everybody starts saying, it's not there. Some of you didn't have that. And then I said it should be in an orange square. So life is like that. Life is like that. We'll go looking for yellow color things, and the specs will keep changing. The specs in life will always keep changing, and how adaptable we are to that is what will help us to have that right balance. If we are not adaptable, sir will go. If we are at 7 or 8 in balance, we'll just slide down to 1 very easily. And when we are sliding down, we will pull 2, 3 more with us. No? That's how we spoil everybody's work-life balance, not only us. So if we can pull people down, we can bring them up also. Please remember, everything has the flip side. Okay, so the first thing I told you while trying to maintain the right balance was work out your values and priorities, know what your values and priorities are. The second thing is be flexible and adaptable. The third thing is find your own family and work balance. For each of us, there'll be a different balance. Like I told you in the beginning, one size does not fit all. Someone may have a spouse who's very, very helpful at home. No? So you're lucky. Find the balance over there. Someone else may have a spouse who will not do anything at home, who doesn't, think that he needs to contribute in any way, or he or she needs to contribute in any way at home. So find out in your own families what is your work-life balance, and while trying to find out that work-life balance, while trying to live through all your roles, the important thing is don't aim for perfection. One of the biggest reasons why we have this work-life balance issue is we want to be super women. Especially in India, we have I actually do not appreciate this. People give it to us as a compliment, but I don't take it as a compliment. They say women in India are like Durga. They have 10 hands. So one hand will be cooking, one hand will be cleaning the child, another hand will be sending mails to the office, another hand will be managing the maid, another hand will be taking care of in-laws, another hand will be talking to a friend who is having some issues. No, we don't have to be. We are not super women, okay? Please understand that about it. We're all very, 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 very common human beings. We are not superhuman beings. Don't aim to be superhuman beings. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for the best that you can do. Yes. The best that you can do, not what somebody else can do. Somebody else can do what is best for her. I can do what is best for me alone. So always look at things and do things to the best of your ability, but do it to the best of your ability. If you don't do it, then that guilt will make you cause other, negative loops to come. So find out what is your own work-life balance, but don't aim for perfectionism. Always list out what are the benefits of doing this in my family. There are women who don't keep help. I see many women who just start off working, they will not want to spend that extra whatever money to keep a help. They will want to do this also, they will want to do that also. So understand what is the benefit of me doing this. So if I'm doing the housework also, and I have to clean the beds also, I have to sweep and swab also, I have to cook also, I have to help the children arrange their bags also. Just imagine, it's just too much, right? What is the benefit of doing? Why are we doing all this? Because we want people to say, see how well she manages everything. We are always looking for pats from outside. But inside we are dying because we are not able to live up to those standards. No? See, just raise your hand like this and keep it up. Okay, keep your hands up like this. So keep understanding what are the benefits of me doing it. What are the demands of having these different roles? Okay, how long can we keep the hand like this? Tell me. How long? In the beginning, it's fine, no? We have another 15 minutes or so. Can we go on keeping the hands like this for another 15 minutes or so? No. Now, who has set this standard? This keeping the hand like this is our benchmark, is our standards for being a good mother, for being a good wife, for being a good daughter, for being a good daughter-in-law, for being a good boss, for being a good teammate, for being a good friend. So many standards we have set for ourselves, and finally, we are not able to maintain the hand at that level at all. So put your benchmarks lower. You don't have to be superlative in everything. At different points of life, you can choose. Like the first point that we said was choose your values and priorities, no? The same way you can choose which role is important for me at this point of time. No, like say for example, a person who has newly joined an organization, for her, that role of employee is very, very important at that point of time because you have to make your mark in that organization. So that time you should not worry about being a great daughter or daughter-in-law at home. The same way, when you are a newly wedded person, you're just going into, in India, we marry not an individual, we marry a family. No? So when you're a newly married person, think about your role as the daughter-in-law of that family or as the wife for this person. So at each point of time, go back and reevaluate your values and priorities and choose the role which is important at that point of time. When you make these choices, everything else will become so easy, trust me. It's because we don't make these choices. We think we have to do all these things at the same time. And that is where all the stress comes from, and that's where all this imbalance comes from. The next thing for maintaining the right balance is use the tools that we have. Today, technology has given us so many tools. Do you have, you have diary in your mobiles. You can make notes in your mobiles. What do we use our mobile for? We use it for receiving calls, sending calls, messaging, social networking. Your calendar has so many things. If you go to your calendar, there's so many, things over there which will help you to be better, will help you to manage your time better, right? So use all the tools which are available. Do time audits for yourself. Many of the time, one of the things that people say is, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to do this. So once in a while, do a periodic time audit for yourself. See whether you're actually using your time well or not. Even if you're choosing to just laze around at home, let it be your choice. Even if you're sitting and binge watching Netflix because of COVID, all of us have done that at some point or the other. It should be because you chose to do it. Not that somebody just put you in front of it and you're doing it on auto, like a robo. So use the planners, use all the tools that we have in our hands. And finally, inculcate all those various stress busting habits. No, there's so many stress busting habits which should be a part of our day-to-day routine. Like for example, I asked all of you just now, how many of you exercise every day? When you exercise, you stay fit, you're healthy. If you're healthy, you don't get issues like BP and diabetes. These are all which add to our stress, right? Which then makes us go into a state where we are not able to do justice to the various roles that we are playing. So exercise well, eat well. Do you all eat healthy food? Once in a while having, junk food, fast food is fine, but largely are we eating well? Are we drinking water well? How much water do you people drink per day? Minimum, what is the minimum? Does anybody know? I'm so sorry, many of you are sending so many chat messages. I'm not able to look at each of them and respond. Yeah, 2 to 3 waters, Kushbu says, 8 glasses, 2 liters. Again, there is no standard that everyone should drink. Know your body. Be a friend to your body. Your body will speak to you. If you just listen to your body, it will tell you what is needed. Okay, so eat well, drink well. Learn to communicate assertively. That's also a stress busting habit. If you want to say no, say no. Do we do that? Are we able to say no to anybody and everybody? We should be able to say no, whether it's a child, whether it is family, yeah, Trupti, or whether it is bosses or colleagues, whoever it is. At the same time, you should also learn to accept a no from others, especially people who have more power and authority over others. No, being assertive is also about allowing others. Yes, Geeta Lakshmi, only at sometimes we are able to say no, but learn, attend some session on assertiveness. Ma'am, Pomal ma'am, arrange a session on assertiveness. Learn how to speak assertively. Learn how to say no. Yes, we will definitely, Khushbu, you're right. When we learn to say no, we get rid of so many negative things. No? And also prevent stress from coming into our lives. Understand that you cannot please everybody. Then who should you please? Yourself. Is that a selfish outlook? Let it be. Please be selfish. Rather than selfish, I'll say this is about looking after yourself. Okay? You can't please everybody, but you are definitely responsible for pleasing yourself. You are responsible for making yourself satisfied and content. Your happiness, your contentness is dependent only on you. Nobody else can give that to you. At the same time, you should not allow anybody to take it away from you also. Okay? Learn to connect with others. That's very important for managing your stress, managing your work-life balance. When you have good connections, you're able to deal with things better. Whether it is family, whether it's friends, whether it is some colleagues, learn to have a good, heart-to-heart equation with somebody. There should be at least 2 or 3 people in your life whom you can reach out to at any point of time for anything. The best way of examining for yourself whether you have good connections is 2 questions you can ask. One question is, at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I want to talk to somebody, is there anybody who I can call? So they call 3 a.m. friends, right? We don't normally call anybody and everybody at 3 a.m., right? So if you have a 3 a.m. friend, that means you have a good support system. The second question by which you can know whether you have a good connection with somebody is, if I need money, can I approach somebody? This is a very good thing. Can I go? Maybe the other person may not be able to give you the money, but can I ask? Will I be able to ask for money from somebody? That will show the quality of the equation that you have. The other person, if the person has the money, will lend it to you. If he doesn't have, we'll say, I'm sorry, I don't have, and you will accept it. That shows the value or the quality of the connection that you have with somebody. Just these two questions. Always have a positive outlook towards life. We spoke about that when we did stress, right? So leave all the negatives, leave all the bads, unpleasantness, and just focus on the positives. Does that mean that we are fooling ourselves? No. I'm not telling you to deny the negatives. I'm not telling you to deny that there are unpleasant things in life. I'm telling you that they have their place. But if you really look, you'll also be able to look at nice things, positive things, and good things around us and in our lives. And finally, the last thing for stress busting lifestyle is learn to confront difficult people. No, we all have difficult people, whether it is family, whether it's friends, or just casual acquaintances or colleagues. There will be difficult people in our lives for whatever reason. Whether it's valid or not is irrelevant. The point is they are difficult with us. We should know how to deal with these difficult people. If we are able to do this, so these are all inculcating stress busting habits. If you do all this, that balance that we spoke about, no, the work-life balance will become a truly a piece of cake. It will not be difficult at all. So I think on that note, I'm done for the session. I'm very happy, Ramya, with my timing today.
Yes, ma'am. We are actually, we want some time for the audience to ask. Maybe we are going out of time. But anyway, we'll ask someone if they wanted to ask you some questions.
Yes.
1 or 2 questions we'll take.
Yeah, if anybody has anything to ask or say or share, quickly speak.
Yeah, because you have already taken, in between also you have taken, listen to them. So may not be many questions. Anyone wanted to?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, please proceed.
It was a really very nice session, ma'am. I really learned a lot, and I will definitely try to work upon my weak points, which are stress triggers to me.
Thank
you. One question is, ma'am, that saying no. I have started to learn how to say no, but sometimes I have felt that the other person who is, like, you can say, superior in my family to me or in my office doesn't want to listen to that no from me.
Right.
Even if I say no.
Right.
How to deal in that situation.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll need another session on how to say no. But I'll just give you one response directly. When we say no, Tripti, it's not enough to just say no. Always give the reason why you're saying no first. Okay? There are 3 aspects to saying no. First is say no firmly. Second, give a reason why you're saying no. Third, offer an alternative. Okay? If you do these 3 things, then your no will be more acceptable and palatable to the person you're saying it, even if they are senior to you. Okay? Try this next time.
Ma'am. Yes. Right, ma'am. It has worked in my office, but in my family, I'm not that fortunate.
I know, because the power equations are different in the family, no? So
yes,
you have to sometimes give in to those things.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tripti. Anyone else? One last.
Anyone else who wants to ask a question? One last question.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who's saying that they've enjoyed the session. I've enjoyed it too. Needless to say.
So there are questions related to time management. So maybe
that's another session, no, Ramya, time management.
Yes, because we'll have to manage the time here.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Puvamal. Thank you, Ramya, for coordinating everything for me as usual. I've had a
pleasure is mine.
Yeah, thank you. I've had a wonderful time here. Next time, I would like to see more faces, more videos on. Thank you for being such engaging participants.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a fantastic life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. I don't wanted to share anything. Maybe I'll text you, ma'am. So
Yes.
now I invite Shalini Maurya, faculty member at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Vidyashram, Pratap Nagar, Jaipur, Rajasthan, to deliver the vote of thanks to ma'am. You can thank her, Shalini, ma'am.
I think is she there? Like,
she was
there. Yeah, when she was talking.
No,
yeah.
She's here, ma'am. Yes, Shalini, ma'am. You can.
If somebody asks me to express what I have learned from this session in one line, it will be, I have learned this, change your of your life will change. Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am, for an enlightening session. We are grateful and effort you took to experiences on a topic everybody faces, but to understand or describe in words. Actually,
Shalini ma'am, sorry for the interruption. Shalini ma'am, there's some issue with your mic.
unmuted myself.
You're unmuted, but there's some disturbance from your end. We are not able to hear what
It's
you're
okay.
talking.
It was earlier also was there. Yeah.
Just let me,
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you.
just a minute. Let me. I hope I am audible from here now.
Yes. Yes, you
You
are.
were audible even before, but there's disturbance. Anyway, ma'am, continue.
I'm still there is disturbance.
Ma'am, can you please put it in the chat box, please? Sorry, Lakshmi ma'am.
That's okay, Shalini ma'am, that's okay. I think there's some, technical disturbance from there. So like Ramya said, you can maybe put it in the chat box. But I heard some of it, so thank you so much. Thank you for what you said.
I'm audible now. I have just changed.
Hey, ma'am,
Shalini ma'am, you are audible, but there is a problem from your end.
मैम आपका आवाज बीच-बीच में जा रहा है
हाँ,
तो ठीक
हाँ.
सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है. ठीक है? कोई बात नहीं. फिर कभी
There
हम
is some internet issue. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi ma'am.
Thank you,
have
Ramya.
really, yes, ma'am. Thank you. On behalf of everyone here, all of us enjoyed. I'm sure the participants also. I'm sure Shalini ma'am had something more informative and more constructive to say about the presentation today. Maybe we'll get it in the chat box and share it to you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Participants, the feedback link will be sent to you. Please wait. And tomorrow again, we'll meet at, ma'am, 9:15.
9:15. Yeah.
Okay, tomorrow at 9:15 we'll meet. The feedback link will be sent to you. Yes, it is there in the chat box for you. Okay, so you can complete the feedback link and send it to us. Thank you all. Hope you all of you enjoy the session today. And tomorrow for the presentation, we'll be grouping you for the afternoon session.
Had to talk, no? Ask Tangaravati ma'am to talk.
Yes. She's there. She's taking up.
Yes, so for the participants, tomorrow we'll have the session 3 will be an activity-based round. You have already given your willingness in the Excel sheet about your case study, your project, as well as the survey questions. And some of the professors over here have shared the form to get the survey as well. So we have also mentioned the number of slides in the presentation that